Well, popular cartoon characters are being overused as a way of promoting fatty, sugary and salty foods to youngsters. A new report by Which magazine warns that Shrek, The Simpsons, the Pink Panther are among the familiar faces appearing on packaging for unhealthy products. Happy Feet appeared on Weetabix chocolate flavour Wheatos, which contain 23.5 grams of sugar per 100 grams. Shrek promotes Kellogg's Frosties, which has 37 grams of sugar per 100 grams, but they are jolly tasty, aren't they? And Spider-Man can be seen on packs of Nesquik chocolate-flavoured cereal, which contains 36.1 grams of sugar per 100 grams. It wasn't all doom and gloom, however. Which magazine praised Disney for banning its characters from being used to promote unhealthy foods. Well, Sky's Jane Dougal spoke to some kids to see if packaging does affect their choices.
Taya, right, out of these two, these are just kind of normal biscuits,
okay,
and they're biscuits as well. Which one do you want and why? Why do you want that one?
Because Scooby-Doo's there. I like that film because I always watch it.
The Simpsons?
Yeah. This Spider-Man. Because the character's what it's got under I like.
We also spoke to their mums to see how they feel about this kind of marketing.
Do you find that when we go shopping at times, Aaron runs down aisles and he looks for, things like Cocoa Pops, he'd want the Cocoa Pops due to the chocolate, but also the characters that are advertised on the boxes.
Obviously they want to sell their product, make money, which is fine, it's a business, but at the same time they're deceiving the customers and trying to pull the wool over our children's eyes.
Well, joining us now in the studio, brand expert Simon Middleton. Simon, good afternoon to you, thanks for coming in. Have you got
Hello.
kids?
Yes, they're grown up now though.
Grown up now, but when they were little, did they see a cartoon character on a product? Did it ever perhaps influence their decision to want something?
Absolutely.
Something your trousers
Absolutely.
and say, Dad, can I have that?
It did. We're going back 15 to 20 years now, but I think it's got worse actually.
Do you?
And from a brand point of view, I think brands understand very well the influence they have on children. And I don't really have an issue with that. I come from the world of brands and marketing. What I think the issue is the use of brands and marketing to promote foods that aren't very healthy. And I think there's no excuse for that really. And I think it's the Which report highlights it's time for them to take action to win back some respect actually.
But how can you do it? I mean, you know, we live in a time, don't we, within the last week, the Tories have said business needs less red tape. That would need red tape, wouldn't it? You would need to have regulations and guidelines, enforceable guidelines.
Yes.
Forcing companies not to use cartoon characters to help flog their products.
That's not quite what I'm saying though. I don't think really there's an issue with using cartoon characters to flog products. I think that's
unhealthy products. Who decides that they're unhealthy?
Well, I think the Food Standards Agency decides that, and I think at the moment the regulations are there, but they're not quite tight enough. And a lot of the brand holders, the food manufacturers, are walking a fine line, I think, between, they say, for example, I saw some packaging this morning that said no artificial colourings or preservatives. But it's not actually artificial colourings or preservatives.
That's a different debate altogether, isn't it, though, Simon? That's a different debate. I mean, if you buy a box of Cocoa Pops for your kids, you know you're buying Cocoa Pops, it's chocolate, chances are they could probably do with some fruit instead for breakfast, but,
yes,
you know, and whether that Cocoa Pops box has got Homer Simpson or Scooby-Doo on the front of that box is immaterial, isn't it? It's what the product is.
It's what the product is. That's my point, though. The Cocoa Pops don't have to have, I think, and more people seem to agree, and Which certainly would say that, don't have to have the levels of sugar, salt, and so on that they have in them. It's perfectly possible to brand a healthy product as opposed to a less healthy product. It's perfectly possible for cereal manufacturers to make their products less loaded with sugar and less loaded with salt. And I think some of them are improving. If you look at all the great range of products available, there are some that are making gestures towards it. I don't think they're moving fast enough, though.
Is there squeamishness amongst marketeers about targeting kids specifically? We know that, I mean, there's great debates, for instance, about using television advertising, isn't there?
Yes.
To target kids for toys, not just toys, any number of things, because, of course, the principle is if you get them young, maybe they'll stick with you down the years. But amongst people who work with you on branding, are people uncomfortable?
Well, I might be in a minority. I don't think they're as uncomfortable as they ought to be. And as I say, I'm in that industry and I'm a big fan of brands. I think brands make for good business. But I think brands have to behave responsibly. And Well, we don't advertise cigarettes in the way they used to be advertised anymore. And now we brought that into our culture. But still, it's okay to promote unhealthy foods to children. And I think it's time that the brand owners, the food manufacturers, and the entertainment owners, the owners of the Simpsons and the Disneys and so on, started to think more positively. And I think actually Disney Corporation have made a move towards it, as your clips showed. I think it's just time they got more responsible.
And as you say, you're getting these tie-ins now, aren't you,
Yeah.
between the big films.
Yeah.
Got to be slightly careful because ultimately our owners are involved in The Simpsons.
Of course.
But, you know, you do.
And I'm a big fan of The Simpsons. I just don't think they should be used to promote unhealthy food.
Okay.
That's the tie-in is not a problem. Tie-ins have always been. The tie-ins were there when my children were little as well, 20 years ago. The point is that both sides of the party, the owners of the cartoons and the owners of the food, I think need to take a responsible attitude. And I don't think that's beyond their means.
Okay, Simon, interesting thoughts. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you
Simon
very much.
Middleton there with some thoughts on branding of children's products.